Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Kai'Sa updated complete guide for AP Kai'Sa, of course for patch 4.4. So I haven't really played too many matches in the first few days, but I just had a couple, like a 3-hour session yesterday playing a lot of the ADCs, and I think ADC as a role is really strong now, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. First up, of course, we're going to go through the loadout for Kai'Sa, particularly the AP/hybrid variant. So before we get into that, of course, don't forget to refer to the Kai'Sa basic guide for her skills leveling order tips and tricks, as well as some combos. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So basically, the main change, obviously, is that Void Staff is now out, and as a result, obviously you can't build that anymore. So instead of building Void Staff, we're actually going to be building Crown of the Shattered Queen. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but let's first jump into the rest. So the start of the build pretty much is the same. So first up, you want to go for Mana Mune. Of course, this gives you the mana, the damage, and damage on your auto attacks as well as your abilities, and also it's a really cheap item, so you get your Q evolved really quickly. So next up, you have your Nash's Tooth. So Nash's Tooth is going to give you the attack speed, the ability haste, and then also the on-hit damage. However, at the beginning, it's going to give you AD instead of AP, because of course you have the Mana Mune, which gives you AD. So this is going to give you AD at the start, but when you get any one of these AP items, it's going to give you AP instead. Now, why do I say any one of them? Well, we're going to get into that in a bit, but before we do, let's get into the boots. So honestly, for Kai'Sa, you have a lot of options for the boots. So the first obvious option is obviously going to be the Boots of Mana, because you're building an AP build. And in fact, the strength of Boots of Mana is instantly going to override Mana Mune, and it's going to make the Nash's Tooth give you AP instead. That's probably the biggest strength of Boots of Mana, and the fact that it gives you 55 AP, which is really huge, especially when you compare it to like full-on items that only give you slightly more. However, other than Boots of Mana, you actually do have a lot of other options. So first other option you have are defensive boots. So in some particular matches, defensive boots have a lot of value. So if you're playing to like 4 AD or 4 AP, you definitely want to go for like your defensive boots. Or obviously corresponding to the damage you'll be taking. But an option that I've actually really liked, particularly when you play against teams that you have to play front to back, is actually going to be the Gluttonous Greaves. And this is actually what I go for later on in this particular gameplay, because that is indeed the case in this game. Now, of course, Kai'Sa can burst people down really well with like her just normal combo of like Q auto W to proc your passive. But another thing Kai'Sa can do is also poke with her W. But another thing Kai'Sa can also do is just play like a normal ADC front to back. Like even though you're building AP, you still deal very good auto attack damage, especially with the Nash's Tooth, with the Mana Mune, etc. So as a result, getting all that extra Omnivamp from everything, because obviously you deal AP damage, you deal AD damage and everything, it's gonna be absolutely amazing. So I actually think Gluttonous Greaves is a really good option as well. So a lot of boot options for Kai'Sa is really situational. So next up for your last 3 items, this is going to be where the confusion comes in the sense that they can be built in any order, except for Death Cap, which you cannot build too early. So the first item we're going to go through is going to be Crown of the Shattered Queen. Now I think this item is completely busted. I think it's going to get nerfed sooner or later. But basically what it does is it gives you max health, it gives you AP, of course the magic pen, gives you mana, which is gonna of course contribute to your Mana Mune's damage. It's gonna give you ability haste, and then it's gonna give you a safeguard spell shield, which is gonna block the first hostile ability like Banshee's Veil, and it's gonna block 70% of incoming damage for the next 1.5 seconds. And when you're safeguarded, which is basically when you have the shield, you get additional 20 AP. So whenever you deal magic damage to champions, you're gonna reduce your safeguard cooldown by 5 seconds. So for Kai'Sa, this is basically mainly going to be her W, or if you proc her passive. So not exactly a lot of ways to proc this for Kai'Sa, because obviously she's an ADC, but it's still really good. Basically, this is an assassin/engage proof kind of item. So this item is so OP because 1.5 seconds is actually pretty long. So if you have an enemy like, for example, Nautilus, an enemy like Leona going in on you for the CC, and then someone follows up, you're basically gonna just immune all of that damage. Same thing if an assassin tries to assassinate you. Let's say if Evelyn puts the heart on you, comes in, full combos you, you're gonna take almost no damage, because 70% damage reduction is absolutely insane. So this is just a really strong item. Then another really strong item for your DPS is gonna be Riftmaker, which obviously gives you honestly pretty similar stats: 150 max health, 80 ability power, 7 percent Magic Pen, Ability Haste, Omnivamp, which again is really good stat for Kai'Sa, and the Void Corruption passive to allow you to deal true damage. So, lastly we have, excuse me, lastly we have Death Cap. So Death Cap obviously gives you now 100 AP, but of course increases your AP by 20 to 45%. By the time you get it last item, you're going to be at max level, but we're going to talk about the build order a bit later on, and of course the Magic Pen. So, you only go for Crown 3rd item if you need it, which basically means you're playing against Assassins or Engage. If you're playing against, like, you know, a team that doesn't have Assassins or Engages, or doesn't really have enough, let's say you only have 1 threat on the enemy team, it may not be worth it to go for Crown here. So, you might want to, for example, go for the Riftmaker first, and then go into Death Cap, and then go into Crown. So the earliest you can build Death Cap is your second last item, because at this point, you're going to be roughly around level 13 or so when you're building the Death Cap, and by the time you complete the Death Cap, you should then be around level 15. So normally, you'll reach max level when you complete the 4th item. So you can, of course, also go for Death Cap as your last item. You can swap this order around, you know, as you so choose. It could be like that as well. But really, it's kind of very situational as to which order you want to build your items in. Of course, depending on the game. So next up, we're going to talk about the runes. So for the runes, it's pretty interesting because basically you have two options. You're going to have, of course, your Lethal Tempo, and you also have your Conqueror. So you want to take Conqueror when you cannot play front to back. Basically, if you want to play to like burst people down, or if it's really difficult to you know, just auto attack for free, you want to take Conqueror because it's going to give you more value. However, if you're playing against a number of tanks and a number of frontliners on the enemy team, then Lethal Tempo is actually better because you can stack your Lethal Tempo onto the frontliners, and then you're going to have a full stacked Lethal Tempo with a lot of attack speed to then use on the backline. And why so much attack speed is good is because you can proc your passive more. And of course, when you're building AP Kai'Sa, proccing your passive is going to do so much damage. So that's why Lethal Tempo also works very well. So both are options. It really is matchup dependent. So you're going to go for Brutal, of course, for the damage. And of course, you go for Giant Slayer or Coup de Grace, depending on if there are tanky targets on the enemy team. But so far, preliminarily, I'm thinking that Giant Slayer is mostly better because obviously now we can see the rune stats, and it seems like Giant Slayer is generally giving a lot of value in most matchups. So of course, we go for Bloodline for even more tenacity. And since we have Crown, we don't actually really need Bone Plating anymore. Of course, Bone Plating is still good for lane, but in later stages of the game, Bone Plating becomes useless when you have Crown. So we are going to go for Overgrowth instead to just get a little bit more health, because obviously ADC's health pool is pretty bad, so getting more health is always going to be good. Lastly, we have, of course, our Flash and Exhaust. Reason you want to go for Exhaust is Kai'Sa, of course, fights 1v1 or like likes to take fights a lot, so getting Exhaust is really good for helping you win those 1v1s or like, you know, those fights that you take when you dive in the backline, for example. So all that said, let's jump into the Kai'Sa gameplay. Alright, so first gameplay of 4.4. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will be sure to address them. Alright, so now rocking the, well, not new, but newly acquired KDA Kai'Sa skin. Shen kind of trolls by walking up, takes a free Q, and now we're kind of just running them down. Lethal Tempo stacking, trying to get the autos on Samira. Samira stops to auto attack Leona for some stupid reason and gets stunned, dies, and Shen gets stunned now. He dies too, and it really couldn't really be too much of a better start for us. 2 kills, you know, in the first 30 seconds of the game, and we're gonna get free back and complete a Caulfield's Warhammer for even more laning power. Now, Kai'Sa isn't really the strongest in lane, mostly because her Q damage is going to be spread across minions as well as champions, so you're not going to do as much damage in lane. But of course, with a 101 start, that's going to be a lot better. So obviously, you guys can tell based on the title of the video or the thumbnail. Obviously, we got a Penta in this game. Obviously, we're better than 100% of Kai'Sa in this game. So clearly, it's going to be a pretty banger game for you guys in this particular one. So interestingly enough, we did see Kai'Sa's stats in terms of win rate. Apparently, Kai'Sa is the lowest win rate ADC at all of the top ranks, which I find really interesting because personally, I feel that Kai'Sa is really strong. Now, the only real reason I can think that this would be the case is probably because Kai'Sa is really difficult to execute. Like, having learned every single ADC in the game, I actually think Kai'Sa is one of the hardest ADCs to play properly, despite her kit not necessarily being that hard, not so mechanically difficult like a Draven or whatnot, but to know how to play her properly in terms of like her numbers and like when to go in and when not to go in, etc. A lot of things. It has a lot of nuance to it. Let's just put it that way. So it's pretty difficult ADC to pull off, which is probably why the win rate is so bad, because a lot of people who can't play it properly are trying to do so, and of course as a result it's dragging down her win rate. Alright, so anyways, another kind of interesting development I have from the previous Kai'Sa gameplay that I have covered is actually going to be what to max second and what to evolve second. So previously when I played AP Kai'Sa, I used to max W second and used to evolve W second. However, I realized that most of the time when you get to your second evolution and you max your second ability, you're only at your second item. So considering that in this particular game I'm going for Gluttonous Griefs instead of going for Boots of Mana, this means I'm going to be, technically speaking, an AD Kai'Sa all the way up till when I get my third item, which in this case is going to be Crown. So because of this, well, maybe before we get into that, we're going to see what happens in the fight here. Here I'm actually using Vi to exit the fight because I'm kind of caught in a pretty bad spot. We get the kill on the Vi and we're going, we get the kill on the Shen, and we're just chasing the Null a little bit, so overall goes pretty well for us. So here, we try to set up trap for Veigar. Unfortunately, Leona misses a point blank E, and Veigar escapes with 1 HP. Samira is on the chase. I exhaust her. She ults, but I'm going to flash out of the ult. Here, I use my E to get spacing. Now, here's really important what I did micro-wise, because Samira has the lowest range out of all ADC. So, as I E out of her auto-attack range, she can't auto-attack me, but I have longer range than her, so I can't actually auto-attack her. So, I use my E movement speed to get out of her auto-attack range. In this time, obviously, I can't auto-attack, so I Q instead to deal the DPS, and then I use my final auto-attack to proc my Plasma passive and get the kill. So anyways, back to my point on maxing and evolving. So because you max and evolve your second, the second ability you max and evolve is going to be when you complete, roughly when you complete your second item. So since I'm going for Gluttonous Griefs, which is an AD, it's going to be AD until I get my third item, I'm actually going to max E and evolve E as my second item, which also gives me a lot of extra safety in this particular match, where I can get caught out by Vi, Shen, and even possibly Samira / Veigar Cage, a lot of things that can really catch you out. So if you're going for an AP build, in a sense that you're going for Boots of Mana, then probably maxing W and then evolving W might actually be good as a second evolution / second maxing. But since I'm not, I'm actually going to max E, evolve E, and then max W last, and then evolve W last as well, obviously. Okay, so now we've covered those kind of like quote-unquote basics of what to do in terms of leveling and evolving. Now we can jump back into focusing a little bit more on what's happening in terms of the gameplay. So here I've obviously completed my Mana Immune, I've got my Q Evolve, which should always be our first evolve regardless of what kind of build you're going to go. And we've also got the Nashor's Talon, I believe the item is called, for a little bit more AD. And we're probably going to go ahead and complete the boots before we complete Nashor's Tooth, because the boots gives you a really strong spike. But on Kai'Sa is one of the few ADCs you don't want to go for boots first item, because you're going to delay your first ability evolution. So you probably want to go Mana Immune into boots. But since I didn't really decide what boots I wanted at this point, I just went for the Nashor's Talon first. So here anyways, we have the objectives up. Graves looks like he's interested in dragons, so we're just going to head over to just help him out with the dragon. So this is actually a pretty bad dragon. You can see that enemies are literally coming from every direction. We're kind of caught in the pit. We get Chain CC'd here. I tried to ult out of the pit, but unfortunately Vi actually manages to get the ult on me, and she follows me out of the pit, CC's me, and I die. Now in the meantime, we managed to pull off the heist by getting the dragon, and everybody other than me actually escapes. Now I have to say that even though I died, this is actually a pretty good outcome given the situation, because the situation was, we had 3 to 4 people trapped in the pit. We had a Vi coming from their jungle. We had the Shen and Samira coming from bot lane. We had a Veigar coming from mid lane. Literally nowhere to run. We're all stuck in the pit. And considering that number 1, we got the dragon, and number 2, everybody other than me got out, I would say that that's kind of a win. So anyways, here I headed back into lane, clearing up the wave. Samira and Graves caught in the 1v1. Obviously, I can't exactly help. I have no ult to jump in on her even if I hit W, so I can't really just run at her. It's not really going to work. But what I can do is this, which is she sticks around alone under tower without minions, and I just solo kill her. So this solo kill is huge, because here you can see that I'm free hitting the tower. I get 2 tower plates, I get 3 tower plates, and the enemy team, and meanwhile, is fighting my team at Herald. So we can see the entire rest of the enemy team other than Samira at the Herald. Samira is, of course, still dead. And this actually gives me time to free hit the tower again. So this kill is probably the most important kill I got in the whole game, because this kill has basically translated to, I think it's like 5 tower plates and the whole tower. So that is a huge injection of gold. Kill gold on Samira. Not kill gold, tower plating gold from every single plate, and the tower gold itself. Now the only sort of, we didn't really get the cherry on top, because instead of getting the first tower, we actually missed out by getting first tower by about 1 second, because Herald got the first tower in mid lane for the enemy team. Here, Vi is marked, so I'm gonna just dash in on Vi. I nearly actually get the kill on her, but unfortunately the rest of her team is there, so we can't continue the chase. So nearly got the execute on her. One more auto attack probably would have done the trick, but she does escape with a sliver of HP. So here we're just going to clear out bot lane. Once again, remember this is really important, which is even after you take the tower, you want to clear the lane first and then rotate. If not, it's just going to give the enemy team a free tower in return, which doesn't make sense anymore. So here we have Nash's Tooth. We're going to get the E evolve, and here I'm just launching my spells because that's going to help me charge up my mana mean faster. Of course, it takes a bit of time to charge up to mirror mana. Huge mid wave crashing into the tower with no one to collect it, so I'm going to do just that. Our mid laner Ashe is really not doing too hot. She's 0-3 and 0 in the mid lane. We actually have like a 4 ADC plus Leona comp if you count Graves in the ADC. We have Vayne top and Ashe mid. Really, really kind of trash team comp. But here Veigar is really fed. He's 5-0 with a huge shutdown, so I really want to get this shutdown. Leona hits the ulti, hits the full combo. Here I'm stuck in the cage, but I'm blasting him whilst I'm in the cage, and I actually managed to pick up the kill while I'm inside the cage, which was pretty amazing. I didn't have flash to flash out of the cage. I couldn't ult because I'll ult into the cage, so I had to try to stand just at the edge of the cage and just try to go for him. So in this particular game, you can see, as I mentioned, I'm going for Crown as third item, and the main reason for this is there is just too many ways for me to get bursted. So before we get into that, let's talk about this fight here. Here Samira is ulting, Shen is ulting Samira. Unfortunately, the Shen ult kind of destroys me. So here I know I'm gonna die, so I'm gonna try and trade 1-for-1, but unfortunately minion wave pulls up, and basically Samira takes close to no damage from my Q, and I do end up going down. But as I was gonna mention, there's a lot of ways for me to get bursted. So the first most obvious way is Vi engages on me with her ulti or even her Q. Locks me down and her team bursts me down. That's no good. Second way to get bursted down, Veigar, who's 6-1 now, can probably just one-shot me with a full combo. So with Crown, he can do that. Third way, Shen engages on me and we got more follow-up again. And the less likely way is like Sion engages on me, but it's still possible. So overall, because of especially Vi and Veigar, excuse me, because of Vi and Veigar, the Crown is going to give us a lot of value. So speaking of Vi, she's actually trying to get the tower here, but she's overextending a lot for it. Here I hit my W, so I'm actually going to wait for her to dash first, and then I'm going to dash after her. Really important here, because getting this kill on the Vi gives me not only the shutdown, but also gives us a free mountain dragon, because Vi is not here to smite it away. Also really important is the fact that I see Vi charging her Q, so I'm waiting for Vi to use her Q before I ult her, because if I ult her and she Qs away, that's going to defeat the entire purpose. So here our Graves is kind of trolling. He doesn't go for dragon, he ends up going to the opposite side of the map. So instead here we end up in a fight for the dragon. Here Shen gets hit by the ulti, Veigar is caught in no man's land, Samira as well. Samira ult gets cancelled by Leona, and I end up picking up a triple kill, and as a result we're going to get the dragon as well. Of course now Vi is alive, but she's not going to make it here in time, so that's no big deal. Pick up the basically free dragon at this point, and we're in really good shape. Okay, so now we've got the crown, we've gotten the evolution for our W, and of course you can see at this point, third item completion, we're at level 12. Of course we're a little bit fed this match, but of course if you're fed you technically get items faster, but you get levels faster as well, so it kind of balances out. So here we're going to take the red buff, we're just going to take the crowds, we're just going to continue on farming. But you can see here that a fight looks like it's breaking out in mid lane. So here, as I kite the crux towards the mid lane, I'm trying to join my team. Obviously I have to go the safer way, I don't want to get caught out, even though I do have Crown active. So here it just looks like both teams are posturing, it looks like a mini ARAM. In the meantime, I'm just launching pot shots with my W because obviously I can get the poke with my W. Unfortunately, I missed that one. Here, Ashe gets one shot by the Veigar. Shen goes in. I'm free firing. You can see I'm free firing onto the Shen, which allows me to actually charge up my lethal tempo. So at this point, I have like a full stack lethal tempo. I'm hitting my W. I'm trying to find ways to DPS. Here I have full health, crown up, not used yet. Now crown finally pops. And here you can see a lot of low health bars. We're trying to finish off the rest of the enemy team here. Sion is killing me, so I'm going to have to ult into the tower to finish off the kill on Veigar. At this point, the Sion passive is going to actually DPS me faster than the tower, so ulting into the tower actually makes more sense than standing there and ulting on the spot. So I ult across him to the tower, finish off the Veigar, and we get the teamfight victory. We also get the mid tower, and we're gonna just reset because we don't have a wave to push down the inhib anymore, so we can't really do too much because of that. So here we're just gonna reset, and we're going to build towards Riftmaker. Now honestly here, if we wanted to, we could go for Death Cap, but I felt in this match that Riftmaker was really good because you can see that in the past couple of team fights, we end up DPSing the Shen and or the Sion first. So getting the Riftmaker is going to actually help us do true damage to the tanks, which is going to help us burst them down faster. It's also of course going to give us a lot of good stats, and also the Omnivan, which is going to help us really well in general, compared to Death Cap that just gives us pure AP. Of course pure AP is good, it's just damage, but I think the Riftmaker like utility and the passive is actually going to be a lot more useful in this instance. So here, you know, we're just gonna join our team mid lane because it looks like play is happening in the top lane, so we want to see if we can either push out mid or rotate top. Now, I thought that Ashe was going to go bot to clear the wave, but since Ashe doesn't do that, we're actually gonna have to be the ones to do that. So here you can see I'm spam pinging my team to retreat because I'm gonna have to deal with this bot wave, and this bot wave is gonna stack up and it's gonna get the tower in bot, and it's also going to get the bounty. So here you can see I immediately back because recalling and walking from base is faster than walking across the entire map, because you can see the fight is still ongoing. So I get there as fast as I can by recalling and running straight down the lane. You can see Vayne is now getting chased down by Veigar and Vi. So the fight's still happening. Vayne gets engaged on, Vayne dies, but Leona is able to engage onto the Vi. I'm able to ult across before Veigar cage comes up, finish off the Vi, and then auto attack down the Veigar. With the whole enemy team aced, I'm gonna actually go for Baron with Leona. And I see very important here is I waited 1 second for Leona to walk in front of me before starting the Baron. And despite wasting, quote-unquote, wasting the 1 second, this actually is going to lead to more damage on the Baron overall. Because Baron gives a 50% damage debuff to the first person he attacks. And if I attack him before Leona walks in front of me, I'm going to get the 50% damage debuff for like 3 seconds at the minimum. So actually it's really wise to wait for Leona to walk in front of me so that she can tank the Baron and take the debuff when she doesn't actually do any damage to Baron anyways. And then I can then DPS the Baron and we can get it really quickly, as you guys saw here. So here, we just clear out the wave, we have Riftmaker completed already, and here we're looking for Dragon Soul because we actually have the double dragon. Now here you can see I'm pretty pissed because Ashe decides to take red buff because my red buff is gonna run out soon, so I'm trying to refresh my red buff, whereas Ashe is 0 and 7, literally useless. I have like about double her goal. Here she does remove Veigar's crown, which is really huge because this allows me to burst down Veigar possibly. So you're just waiting. Here I use my invis to dodge the Vi. We're gonna take down the Vi. Sion is coming in. Unfortunately he breaks the crown with his Q. He's really low. He actually allows me to ult in onto the Veigar by flashing next to the Veigar. I'm trying to flash in on Samira, but Samira dashes away as I flash in. We finish off the kill on Samira and then the Shen for the Penta. So here we have Baron buff up. We haven't actually really even managed to push with Baron buff. But here we're going to help secure Dragon Soul. We don't actually have to waste too much time on this. We're just going to leave so that we can actually push elsewhere, which is what Vayne does as well, because we don't need like 4 people to kill 1 dragon when the whole enemy team is dead. Here we push the wave in. I'm just going to tank the tower and finish off the tower here because it's like so low HP anyways, and we can heal back up with, of course, the huge amount of lifesteal that we have. So here, we're going to continue on to getting this tower. Enemy team is just respawning. We finish it off. Vayne is going for mid tower in the meantime. A little bit dangerous. We do have Ocean Soul now, so we have a lot of additional healing here. Vayne does manage to finish off the kill onto the Vi. And here you can see, really important, we're using W to break the crown of the Shattered Queen of the Veigar. So this obviously is going to allow us to possibly go in on him if we want to, whereas if he has crown, we can never do that. Here, You can see Vayne does indeed go in on him. And here once again, the 0 and 8 Ashe takes the red buff, which is really, yeah, you know, nothing too much to say about it. So here I'm actually just going for the mid lane tower. I make the mistake of attacking Shen, which applies the red buff onto him, which is causing me to take tower aggro, but regardless, I'm just going to ignore him. I'm just going to take down the tower. Here, the Scion once again breaks my crown, but once again he does no damage, obviously because crown has blocked everything, and he's also building full tank. Leona does manage to get CC onto multiple members, and I'm able to finish off yet another kill. At this point, game is pretty much, looks like it's pretty much won. So here Shen tries to go in, we're just going to kill him again. He, of course, takes a little bit of time to work through his shield, and there we have it. So AP Kai'Sa still completely busted in the new patch, at least in my opinion. And that will be it for the video. I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.